So what are the top three challenges that you identified that you personally believe that I want to solve these three challenges of founders while I'm building Supermorpheus?
So actually, there's an insight which came just a few days back when I was talking to somebody that, see, if you look at the startup ecosystem, there is a lot. It's a very small community globally, right? Centered around Silicon Valley, of course, right? So there are always this startup mantras, the models in which you should build startups, right? Which are publicly available and known to everybody. How to build a startup or what to do in a particular situation, right? There are always the popular gyan is available, right? But if you see, 99% of startups fail, even though all of them knew the same gyan, right? Which basically tells you that the popular gyan is actually trash, right? So if a founder is being guided by this popular trash gyan, they are going to find it almost impossible to actually succeed in this process of working out. And that was our first hand experience while building Morpheus, right? Sorry, Madhouse, right? When we built Madhouse, in those days, it was not so much about blogs and all, but you read books of previous startups and companies. You looked at some movies or some popular stories, right? And we tried to follow them. But you see, it didn't apply to our journey. So that knowledge actually did not help us build a good. And we were, by the way, one of the failed. Like our company, Madhouse, was acquired, but acquired for a very low price, right? So it's not totally failed, but it was not a huge success, right? And that the reason for that, one of the reason is that we trusted too much the popular knowledge and gyan. Okay. So I think, and not consciously or subconsciously, what we did in Morpheus, we were trying to help people like our own self to save them from the mainstream gap, basically, right? To see, basically, you look at mainstream GAN is coming from you from sources very far away from you, right? And it is probably given by people who are already at some kind of a pinnacle of success, right? That is not relatable. What is relatable is people who are with you in the journey at the same level, right? What are they experiencing? What are their problems, right? When they share with you. And second thing is when you connect with your own self and solve your problem from your own first principle. See, that's it. So when you look at a problem, you can go from inside out. You can see what you feel about it first principle level, or you can see what is the five top experts saying about this problem, right? Right. So we think that a better way to do things is where you first, you ask yourself, you start with yourself, you are the center. Two, if at all you need to go out, you should go out to people who are like you and around you and people who you know. So I think Morpheus and Supermorpheus are both trying to do that, right? See, that is why in the Morpheus days, in the middle of the Morpheus journey, when once I did an analysis of our portfolio and I found that out of 36, 18 had taken off, 18 had not. Okay. Now I felt personally, genuinely disappointed about that. Why is 50% the company is not taking it? Because we cared about each of them. Right? And I want to figure out what can we do to make sure that all of them succeed. Right? Whereas in a normal world, by the way, venture capital, startup world, it swears by power law. Power law means only one of the 1,000 or one of the 100 will take off. As long as you can find one in the 100, you're okay with it, right? We are not okay with that. That's our personal nature. We are not okay with that. We are not with that attitude so I think, power law is about individual success. If one out of 1,000 individuals can succeed, they make enough money, right? I think communities are opposite of that, right? Communities are collectives where we are saying that the growth of an individual should contribute to the growth of the community. Growth of the community should contribute to the growth of the individual, right? So because if you see, one of my teachers in a spiritual path is Sri Aurobindo, and he has written this very beautiful book about the ideal of human unity, where he traces human evolution through stages. So he talks about stages which were where the collective dominated, where basically if you were part of a particular tribe or a village or a family, the tribe's nature would be dominating the individual nature. So individual also always have to fall in line, right? And then he says the current age is the age of the individual, where the individual, certain individuals dominate the society, right? But he said both of them are imperfect. A perfect stage will be where the growth of the collective leads to the growth of the individual, and growth of the individual feeds back into the growth of the collective, right? So I think what we are attempting to build, knowingly or unknowingly, are communities of that type, where you as an individual grow, I as an individual grow, but as a result, when both of us grow, somehow it makes it easy for the rest of the community to grow. You see? But what happens in
Yeah,
the
I
world,
think
unfortunately, is that when people are growing, right, they do not want to support anybody else. They just want to keep growing, and they want to become part of all the upper clubs, and they completely discard the other groups which they have been part of to succeed. They don't want to look back at their own alumni which they were part of, right? But if it could happen that when two people out of the group of 200 succeed, it makes it easier for the 198 to also grow, right? That's the cycle which we are trying to create basically at Supermorpheus or Morpheus. Morpheus is the same thing. The intent has been the same basically.
exactly, and this is what actually I have been recently observing, that everyone wants to move to the next orbit.
Yes.
But when you have to move to the next orbit, it's your current orbit which actually gives you a push.
Yes. So basically, so see, trying to move to the next orbit is absolutely fine. But can we move collectively? Can I share
Exactly.
at least some of my learning opportunity to rest of the people who were with me in that orbit? Right? Can we move collective? Because collective evolution is what matters. Because even if you are one of the richest people living in any busy city on earth, right, if the collective is not well managed, right, you still have to deal with the messy world, messy traffic, global warming. That is why is it happening, because individually people have moved up a lot, but the collective consciousness has been left way far back. So the gap between top and the median average has to reduce basically. And this can only be done by people who are actually the leaders, right? I mean, it can't be done by the people in the middle. The people only but the ones who somehow have the capacity to lead have to see if they can lead and inspire the world in a different way, basically. And that is why I think it's important. And startup entrepreneurs are one of the natural leaders of this era in which we are living, basically. Right? So I think it becomes even more important to have this kind of mindset, in the startup ecosystem, basically.
Hmm. And what